morning, progress.
We're ready? All right, good evening, everyone. Thanks for letting us take a little break before we start tonight. Today is Monday, March 14th, 2022, and the time is 6:15, and I'll call to order this regular meeting of the Town of Mead Board of Trustees. In accordance with the town's disaster declaration dated March 21, 2020, related to the COVID-19 virus and the town's emergency electronic participation policy, for regular and special meetings, this meeting will be held virtually in Zoom. Virtual access information, including the Zoom meeting links, have been provided on the town's website and designated posting places. I'd like to remind everyone present, both in person and virtually, of our town's general guidance of our public comment for open meetings and public hearings. Copies of these guidelines are available in the back of this room and are also available online. Mary, roll call, please.
Mayor Whitlow.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Here.
Trustee Babcock.
Here.
Trustee Broadhead.
Here.
Trustee Cartwright.
Here.
Trustee Harris.
Here.
Trustee Trent.
Here.
Mayor Whitlow, today is Monday, March 14th, 2022, and you do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Please join me in a moment of silence for former Mayor Robert Clark, who passed earlier this year. He served as our mayor in the 1970s. And I'd also like you to join me in a moment of silence for the people in Ukraine tonight for living under these war conditions.
Thank you for your time. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I'm sorry, Jeff.
No.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to mention that Robert Clark was also the postmaster years ago when the post office was in the building next to Scooter Hinge. So he was also part of that too. Thank you. Please go check our mail over there.
All right, thanks for that history. Thank you. All right, next will be our review and approve agenda. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda? Okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda as stated?
I'll motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call please, Mary.
Trustee Babcock.
Yes.
Trustee Trent.
Yes.
Trustee Cartwright.
Yes.
Trustee Broadhead.
Yes.
Trustee Harris.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Motion carries. Move on to our staff report by our town manager. Helen, you have the microphone.
Thank you, Mayor. Trustees, you have my report. I do have a couple of updates since the report is always old by the time it gets published. Just a couple things. The two police officer candidates we were vetting, neither of them ended up panning out. So we actually have interviewed some more, and we have some very good candidates, and we have a couple in the wing. So that's a little bit disappointing, but that's part of our due diligence, and it happens. So marijuana, the people who marijuana, I stare into space. Marijuana, which I didn't mention in the report. However, the applicants who came to us and put in the citizens petition in the last election has called and is interested in doing it again. So just so you know, they would then be aiming for the fall ballot. So that may end up being on the ballot along with 5 potential positions for trustee, mayor and 4 trustees that would be open. So I just thought I'd let you know that. We'll let you know the more we hear about it. As you know, they have 6 months to gather the signatures, so, we'll see how that moves along, but I just thought I'd make you aware of it. The broadband initiative, I just sent we have hired an attorney who is developing the contract, and I hope to tomorrow get it to Allo so they can start their negotiations. Erie's going through negotiations with Allo. We're kind of drafting off a lot of their agreement, so, cause there's no reason to relitigate things if they've already come to terms. So knock on wood, our goal is by that last meeting in April to have that here for your consideration. So that's pretty exciting, takes up a lot of my time, but very, very excited. If we get this across the finish line, this is fantastic. And then finally, Mayor and I met with Boulder Scientific today. As you know, often there will be complaints about air quality. We've had way less over the last 2 years. They've been doing some significant changes over there, and they're gonna do quite a number of changes to the site. If you've noticed, they've done a lot of cleaning up. They're getting rid of buildings, they're gonna pave. They're also going to donate to the town. On the very south end, there's gonna be a triangular piece of land left over, and they're gonna donate that to us, which will be good, especially, because we're gonna need a little bit of it for the trail. As you know, we're gonna be running the trail all the way along 3rd Street to the new intersection project. So that'll be nice to have that. But we'll be working with them next week. We'll be meeting with them on site to go over this in more detail. We meet with them quarterly. They have us in. Just so you know, if people ask you, we have a real open line with them. They take our calls if there are concerns over environmental things, smells, so I just wanted to let you all know that we have a very open line of communications. A couple of years ago, it was difficult for our citizens to get a call back, but I noticed a big change over the last 2 years, so. And with that, you have my report.
Questions or comments for Helen? David, do you have any questions or comments for Helen?
No, I do not.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Any other big words you wanna use tonight, besides marijuana, Helen? All right, thank you for your time, thank you for your report. Okay, we have to make this very lively tonight. Okay, we'll move on to our.
half asleep from daylight savings time.
I know, very interesting life that we lead. Next, we're going into our informational item of the evening. It will be shaping our identity, continuation of our branding. This will be introduced by our Public Information Officer, Lorelei Nelson. And ma'am, you have the floor. Thank you very much for doing all this work.
Thank you. So, as you know, we started off our branding marketing initiative in 2019 when we updated the logo. And the goal behind that was to create a brand that was modern, sustainable, that connects our community and celebrates Mead's character, and to attract residents and businesses to Mead. We continued this with website and software, so we redesigned our website to incorporate the brand, logo, colors. It created a more professional look, increased credibility, improved user function, and we continue to enhance our brand through Mead Messenger. We enhance Mead through mapping. All of that has our logo, and really it's consistent throughout. We will be implementing NeoGov and Community Pass this year, and again, those are going to be consistent with the logo, the branding of that. Another step we did in 2021 was signage. So getting rid and removing all that old signage with different logos that helps identify our community, stimulates economic development, and provides that brand cohesion. And of course, you know, of all the major projects and development that we have going on, this is an accumulation of many, many years of work. You know, we had 3rd Street reconstruction. We're currently doing Public Works facility. the renovations on Lauren Mead, Park at Highland Lake, Recreation and Community Center, we have broadband going on, there's a lot of internal projects. And then we have the external development, so Elevation 25, Access 25 Logistics Park, which is Home Depot. Right now, we had Ziggy's, Quick Trip, FedEx, and multiple residential developments. These are all major developments and projects that are happening right now. And our goal is to continue to evolve and continue to push that Mead, the town of Mead out there. And our vision is to continue this through video marketing, by showcasing Mead's unique offerings. Right now we have capital projects that were provided, drone footage and videos. You've seen these on Facebook when I update and post. It gets a lot of positive feedback. People like seeing that. It's nice to see the before and after, especially as everything's kind of happening right now. Years of work, it's happening right now, and this is a good way to document the past, the present, and the future. Some of the things that we can do with this is testimonials from developers and local businesses, highlighting grand openings and promoting that positive economic growth. It's a way that we can communicate our message about Mead. We're no longer this pass-through community. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people, and their comment about Mead had been, I drove through there. I drove by it. But now we have people coming in saying, that's the biggest Ziggy's I've ever seen. I mean, there's positive development happening, and this is a way to highlight that. We are being distinguished from our neighbors. We have highly sought after locations, and one of the hardest things to communicate is the influx of commercial and residential leads to more retail. More bodies, more retail. So like I said, it's a good way to document the past, the present, and the future, and where we're going, the things that we're doing, and the projects that we have going on. So these are some aerial footage, as you can see, Lauren Mead Park at Highland Lake. Public Works Facility. And then 3rd Street. Again, major projects happening that we can highlight and share. Questions?
I know the look. Yeah. So, I've talked to people, mostly my husband, about our branding effort, and I have a hard time explaining, like I come in here and you guys explain to me what branding is all about, and I go home and I try to explain to him why we're doing this. And I have such a hard time explaining what the branding, like, what is it doing for our community and stuff. I'm wondering if we could, like, somehow put together a Fun Fact Friday, love that one, type of thing, explaining what branding, I mean, not drawing it out too long, but just kind of explaining what branding does. Why are we doing all these signs around town that all have that same logo and tie us together? What is that doing for our community as far as, I mean, I don't think people understand, how does that bring business to me? Because you put a sign out there that has our name on it, you know? I mean, is there a way that we could kind of explain that a little better as to why this is important and what it's doing for our businesses in our town? So, that was really my only comment, is just, because I'm not good at explaining it, so maybe if you guys come out with a nice little board, then I can just repeat that.
Well, have your husband come to the meeting.
I can certainly look at the Fun Fact Friday explaining branding. I think the term branding and marketing can throw people off.
Yes.
And so I can certainly find a way to explain it, and what the goal is. to be easily identifiable, to be set apart from surrounding communities, to be able to look at a logo and say, oh, that's Mead, and I know exactly where that's at, and I know exactly what's there.
So when a business is looking for a place to go, it's not always Longmont, Fort Collins. Oh, that town Mead, I've heard that one might not be a bad one to look at, right? I mean, that's kind of what we're going for, is getting a name out there that makes a business, cause, 10 years ago, 15 years, when I moved here, I had no idea Mead existed, and I've lived in Colorado my entire life, and I did not know Mead existed until right before I moved here, and I really didn't. And so, yeah, it would just be nice to put that together and help people understand it.
Anything? Questions, comments? Floor line. Okay. I'd like to see if we could do something like what you brought on. One of the things was drones and video and marketing, and I'd like to take it a little to the next level. Instead of looked at different things that are emails are popping up right and left, so sorry. We've done such a great job of rebranding, not rebranding, but branding us, and our identity is coming full. You can see what's happening by the project list and the stuff that's coming to us. What I'd like to see is we could, what's the next steps on doing the video and the drones, and what's the next step if we can get that going, and how much will that cost, and what's the kind of the like a project going forward, or how does this fit into branding, and how does it take us to the next level on the map for developers and for residents and for people that are looking for a place to live or a new business to come in? How does that next step look? Because we've done the signage, we've done the logo, we've done these, the steps, and I don't see anybody else doing video. One time I saw Windsor do it. Windsor or Severance do it. And they put together this great video of what's here, what's coming, where to buy groceries, but, things like that. It's just, try to put it all together, and maybe that's the overall, kind of video, welcome to Mead, whatever. But some of these projects that are going on, I see like Gulch. It's so hard to say. Is to see that project come from, there was a house, and now there's the black tape, the black fence, and to see it come to fruition is like that beginning, middle, and end would be ideally to like put in a portfolio of what's going on, and how do we tell the story? So that's my question. I saw that in there, so I was just asking about, how do we go forward on that?
So my suggestion would be for myself and Slate Communications to get together and kind of formalize what we're looking for, and it's probably 3 different areas. One would be a set of videos that are about the entire town, the small small hometown feel, what Mead has, our different events, things like the bean plant, the things that we're trying to bring to the residents. Another one would be testimonials from developers, talking about how easy it was for them to work with the town of Mead, or how we can expedite different processes. What sets Mead apart from Longmont, Windsor, the small areas, the different areas. And then the third would be focusing on the businesses here, doing grand openings, testimonials from local businesses, just about Mead, why they chose this location, what sets Mead apart, whether it's the location that they, that they wanted to get, or, proximity to I-25 or 66, whatever it is, but getting those people to talk about us, really, and why they want to be here, but us navigating that story.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Don't forget about, I'm mean, it's probably gonna be easier for you to get businesses that are newer and doing grand openings and things, but don't forget about the ones that have been here for a long time. They're the backbone of everything we're building off of, right? So I just wanted to say, make sure that we don't forget them in what you're doing and involve them if you can in whatever way is appropriate.
And just to clarify, what I'm looking for is a series of professionally shot videos. I do some videoing on Facebook, and that's a little bit different than what we're looking at here. It's gonna be professional grade, and work with Slate to have the appropriate software to get that uploaded, to make it easily accessible. One of the downfalls of our website is the video aspect of it. So trying to figure out a way to integrate that better.
Go ahead, Herb.
That's all great. Don't forget to look at your distribution so that it gets like statewide, so that everybody sees it. I've noticed some other communities like Castle Rock really have done some of these efforts. I think the key thing is going state out. Not
Right.
expand the bubble so that everybody gets a chance to see and hear.
So everybody's okay moving forward?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, okay, thanks a lot, appreciate it.
Thank you.
David, did you have any comments, or I keep forgetting David? David?
When you can't see.
No, David, I'm sorry, David, because we had slides up.
No, if I had anything, I would have voiced my opinion. Everything was great. Thanks for the
Okay,
update.
thanks, David, sorry. It's okay, he's right there, he's right there. All right, we'll move on to our first public comment of the evening. The board welcomes public comment for any item, whether it is on the agenda or not. The board will listen to your comments and take them into consideration. If you desire a conversation, please email the board or the town manager or attend the monthly coffee with the mayor. If you wish to speak about tonight's public hearing, we will take your comments during that action item. If you're with us virtually, please indicate by raising your hand to speak. When you are recognized, please state your name and address for the record. Again, if you wish to speak during the public comment, please adhere to the town's general guidelines. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the board. If you are representing a group, you will have 5 minutes. Is there anyone here in the room that would like to speak to the trustees during this first public comment period?
Hello, everybody. I'm Brian Smuggle. I live at 2688 County Road 32. Oh, I'm not on. There we go. That's better.
Hi, Brian.
Brian Smuggle, live at 2688 County Road 32. Hey, I just wanted to talk about the new construction project that's just started up there at the corner. I already forgot the name of it.
Greenview.
Greenview, thank you. So those guys have set up shop right across from our house and my neighbor's house, and let me first say I'm very glad to see that it is getting developed. I'm glad that there will be no more coming back here and trying to defend keeping it RSF1. I'm very happy that they're developing it. I'm looking forward to it, truly. That said, they've set up shop right there on the corner of the property right across from us, and they have all of these massive diesel dirt hauling machines parked right up to the road as close as humanly possible to our houses. And they come in there at 7 a.m. and start them all up to warm up for the next half hour or whatever it takes. And then they're in and out, they're doing stuff around the whole property, but they're in and out of there all day. And this is apparently going to be their HQ for the next 3 years. And I've already emailed some of Erica's folks, and a little back and forth. Just, we've gone through 3 years of Sorrento, we've gone through the bridge getting torn up and rebuilt. Sorrento constantly using that as a truck route even though they're not supposed to, and just would like another round of asking for some courtesy. These guys, do they have to park their trucks as close as possible to their houses, or could they put them back behind their little shed? Could they, in an ideal world, relocate anywhere else on the property? I mean, there's 100 acres or whatever to be on. So that's my main thing. Just like I said, I've started a little bit of a dialogue. I feel like it's probably going nowhere, and probably not going to get anywhere with this. But we've been through 3 years of Sorrento already. I have nothing against the development, but geez, cut a spring.
Thank you, I look forward to the sidewalk that goes in that area soon.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time. Is there anybody else that would like to speak to the board tonight in the room? Is there anybody virtually would like to speak to the board tonight? Please raise your hand.
Is 7 a.m. the start of our end of our quiet hours then? Is that our normal time?
Yes.
Okay, so I was just checking on that. And then, I mean, I actually don't think that that's unreasonable at all. They have 100 frickin' acres. Why do they have to park those giant trucks right next to their house? I don't know, I mean, can we request that they don't? I guess they don't have to listen to us, but
We can work with them, I mean, we've had some challenges ourselves as a town, working with the development team. We had, as you will recall, the road was closed for quite some time, that was running 3 utilities across the road. Right now, we are working diligently to get the trail back open. There's a spot in the middle that they need to patch back, and so, I appreciate Mr. Sponigal coming and bringing this to our attention. I mean, I go there almost every day. I get very impatient with the lack of progress sometimes, and I guess we can work with them and see if they can move their equipment, but I just wanna light a candle that they get the dirt work done and they don't need those big diesel machines here in the next couple months. I mean, usually most of those dirt movers are just to move the dirt, and then they'll come in with the roads. But I do appreciate so a lot of the issues, like the bridge took months to replace, and Sereno's been ongoing, and we'll do our best to try to work with them and really respect our neighbors, so, we'll do what we can, but I don't wanna make false promises, because there's been things that we've asked them to do, and it's just been a struggle, and we keep trying, and we wanna make it better, so we'll see what we can do. But as far as the 7 a.m., that is really when they're allowed to. As you will recall, back when the Highlands started, they were starting at 4:30 in the morning, and it was bad. So, but we'll do what we can.
Thanks. Thanks, Helen. Thanks, Brian, very much for being here tonight, appreciate it. Okay, we'll move on to our consent agenda tonight. The consent agenda contains items that are considered routine and enacted in one motion and vote. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, roll call please, Mary.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams,
Yes.
Trustee Badcock,
Yes.
Trustee Bronhead,
Yes.
Trustee Cartwright,
Yes.
Trustee Harris,
Yes.
Trustee Trans,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you, motion carries. We'll move on to our public hearing. This is a public hearing regarding the Grand Meadows Metropolitan District. First, we will hear from staff, and then the applicant has a presentation. After the applicant, I will allow, public comment, and therefore we will hear, before we hear from the trustees. The time now is 6:43, and I will open the public hearing, and I will now turn it over to our town attorney, Sylvia. I cannot pronounce your last name, sorry. Thank you.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine, thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Well, good evening, Mayor, and trustees. I'm Sylvia Bennett, and I'm with the town attorney's office, as the mayor noted. The town received an application for a proposed metro district to serve the Grand Meadow, residential development, north of Barefoot Lakes and east of the Ritchie Brothers property. It would include approximately 108 acres. I will note for the record that notice of hearing was published in the Longmont Times Call on February 17th in accordance with municipal code section 12240, and the affidavit of publication is on file with the town clerk. As far as staff review, this was a relatively straightforward application because the proposed service plan comports with the town's model service plan, including the mill levy caps and the 3 mills for town operations and maintenance. the town engineer and engineering consultant also reviewed the estimated infrastructure costs to make sure that those are reasonable, because those inform the maximum debt for the district, which will be roughly 41 million if the board approves the service plan in this form. And that comports with the town's code requirements, in that it's linked to the infrastructure costs and a contingency of not more than 10%. The only other thing I will note, because applicant has a detailed presentation, so the only other thing that I'll note relates to the conditions of approval and the proposed resolution in your meeting packet tonight. And the first condition is standard, the requirement to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the town in the form attached to the service plan once the district is organized. The other conditions are more specific to this property because the property is actually already in the metropolitan district, the Downton Metropolitan District. So that's why we are recommending requiring before the new Grand Meadow Metro District can do anything, including impose mill levies, to require that the property be excluded from the Downton Metropolitan District and the Downton district's debt authorization be lowered, since there will be less property in the district and less services provided. That's with the goal of avoiding overlapping metro districts and increased taxation and duplicative services. I believe that applicant's gonna touch on that as well. So with that, I will turn it over to the applicant.
Good evening, Mayor, good evening, trustees. Matt Rowland. I'm here on behalf of the petitioner for the Grand Meadow Metropolitan District, and I also have Corey Starnes, who's with Melody Homes, the petitioner applicant for the district. So if you have any development-related questions that are above my pay grade, I will point to Corey to help me out. I will say, I don't know if you had the chance to review staff report, but I'll try not to go too in depth because they did a very good job of encapsulating everything that we are asking for about the development, about the district, and how it comports with your model service plan. But generally, see if I do this right.
We're not sure that's gonna work for you.
All right.
Sorry.
No worries. There we go. Now this works. Now if you see me do this, then you just do your thing. All right. So districts generally are used to finance, plan for, construct, and install public improvements. That's what this district will be doing. It is limited in that it cannot operate and maintain anything that goes to, that's supposed to be going to either the town or some other entity. Unless there's an IGA that says that you guys allow us to operate and maintain something. The one exception to that is pursuant to the service plan, and your model service plan is a parks or trail and related amenities are to be owned, maintained, and operated by the district. And there will be some trails throughout this development, so those will be owned and maintained by the district. Otherwise, everything will go to the town or some other entity unless you guys would like it somewhere else as part of the development approvals, and then the district would have that power. There are no other governmental entities who are willing to participate in financing these public improvements. While we are within the Downton Metropolitan District, my client is purchasing that property from the current property owner of that entire parcel and is taking that out of that development. So there'll be two different development entities possibly. And so that's why we're here to take it out of one, do a district on our own, so we'll have control over the construction of the improvements and financing. This district will have no financial impact on any other property owner except for those who choose to purchase homes within this district. Just want to make that clear because sometimes there's confusion as to the taxes and who has to pay them. All right, we've got it down. This is stuff I won't really repeat. The location and the acres, 180 acres. We're building roughly 400 homes. That'll all be dependent on development approvals. That'll come to you at a future date. Right now, the sketch plan preliminary plat submittal is anticipated to happen very shortly, and then the development plan will come before you for further consideration and approval. But we are projecting somewhere between 360 and 400 homes at this point to be part of this development. So as Sylvia said, we are currently within the Douthat Metropolitan District, and we have been in contact with that district. It's controlled by the seller that Melody is purchasing the property from, and they are in support of excluding this property. And so Marcus and Sylvia and myself have been in contact with their general counsel for the district to make sure we all are in agreement as to what should be happening here. And we've agreed that the property will be excluded from Douthat before our district could do anything, imposing a mill levy, constructing anything, or financing anything, and that the Douthat district will enter into an amended IGA, reducing their total debt cap from $70 million to $45 million to account for our property being taken out of that district. General counsel for Douthat has looked at that IGA, has said that she blesses it, and they will process it once we get through this process. They will go through the process of approving the IGA, the amended IGA, and the exclusion as part of the closing and the purchase of the property. I want to reassure you, and Sylvia can vouch for this, that town staff and town attorney has been in touch with the Douthat Metropolitan District, and they are in support of what we're doing here today. So the purpose of these districts is to finance public improvements. There are going to be a number of trails. There's going to be an amenity center with some play fields, multi-sports fields, and obviously some roads, water, and sewer that come for part of this development. Once again, the specifics will be determined as the development approvals come before you, but this is the idea at this point of what is anticipated. The costs are anticipated to be around $41 million for all the public improvements. The district does not have bonding capacity, quite honestly, to finance all that. Right now, it's projected to be around $15 million in total bonding capacity, so anything above that will be a developer cost. There's no additional cost to the district or to the town. It specifically says in the service plan that you guys are not putting any money into this. You're not committed to anything. This is a developer finance improvements, and anything that the district can have would supplement that, but anything above the district's finance capacity will be borne by the developer. So as Sylvia said, we comply with the service plan, the model service plan. Essentially, we just filled in the blanks that you guys have in there. We're not asking for anything above and beyond what you are requiring or requesting. Some of the highlights right here, $41 million in estimated improvements, like I said, and that corresponds with our debt limit. So even if we could have somehow magically, the bonding capacity was to be our limit, we wouldn't be able to issue more debt than what we're actually spending. The maximum debt mill levy is 45 mils. We can only impose it for 30 years pursuant to the service plan. The maximum debt mill levy is 10 mils. You add those up and you get your aggregate mill levy cap 55, and we'll be required to impose the 3 mils for the town mill levy, and then turn that over to the town. I just made a sound effect. Hopefully that didn't show up in the record. My children make fun of me because I make sound effects for everything. Board of Trustees findings tonight. So this is also in your packet. There are statutorily required things in pursuant to your code that you must find that we are doing. We're showing the sufficient existing need for the organized service or organization of this district to provide these services. There's existing service. The existing services within the community are essentially non-existent, which is the case here, as the Douthat Metropolitan District is not wanting or desiring to do it for this property. And the district is capable of providing economic and sufficient services. Our service plan and the exhibits that go along with it that have been reviewed by town staff provide evidence of that. And then the property within the district has or will be financially able to provide the services we're saying, and our financial plan shows that we can do that. And with the mill levies of 10 mills, we'll be able to handle the administrative and limited operational tasks that the district will be born with. Last thing is just once again reiterate, we are following the model service plan. Lastly, you were ahead of me that time. Lastly, benefits. This is a benefit of this district and districts generally. They do help provide financing for improvements, which oftentimes provide for enhanced improvements, such as a nicer park, more amenities, more trails. There's local control. The idea is, yes, the developer does control the district at organization, but we like to get residents on board once they come in. It's their community, they're, you know, the ones who are going to be paying for this, they should get on board and take over the board. As soon as you have residents in the community, they have the right at the next regular election to run for the board. So there will be local control. Continued town oversight. You guys have, I think it's a really nice service plan in terms of, I think it's friendly in terms of it allows for development to help finance improvements, but it puts some restraints on it. It allows for disclosure, provides for disclosure, and allows for some limits of what the district can do. So if we step outside of that, you guys can call us in and say you're not complying with the service plan, and we have to amend our service plan or come to terms with why we have it, and there can be repercussions for that. Development pays its own way. No one else is willing to finance any of these roads, water, sewer, parks, open space. And then cooperation with surrounding local governments. Anytime we are doing something, we're within the St. Vrain sanitation district, we have to cooperate them in order to finance the improvements, construct them, and convey them over to them. We're able to do IGAs with the town if there were to be a project that makes sense for us to work together. We could be a party or a partner with the town in that. And lastly, transparency and accountability. Like town board, this will be a local government, and we have to have open meetings, open records. If people want to see what we've been doing, they make a record request to our office, and we have to provide them the documents. We're not a private entity that can say, sue us. We have to provide them just like you guys have to. We have to have open meetings, we have to approve budgets, and legislation has become even more and more pro-disclosure, and so the state legislation has provided that we have to do even more in terms of what we record and what we provide to potential property purchasers, above and beyond even what the service plan provides us to do in terms of the disclosure we must provide. With that, I have nothing more to say, unless you guys have questions for me. We appreciate your time. I want to also thank town staff, especially Marcus and Sylvia. They've been really good to work with. Your branding must be working, and we've really enjoyed working with them. They've been a pleasure. So if you have questions, Corey and I are here for you. Otherwise, I'll sit down.
Good, thank you. We'll ask the public if they have any questions, then we'll return to the Board of Trustees to ask.
Thank you.
Since we have no one here in the room to ask questions of staff or our presenters, is there anyone online that would like to ask any questions of the presenters or our staff? All right, Board of Trustees, anybody have any questions or comments? Ben? You know, it's the same.
Huh?
It's the same.
It's the same?
Yeah, Metro District's the same.
Oh, yeah. I guess my biggest question is, the Metro District right now would be covering pretty much just infrastructure. There's nothing extraordinary. I realize that our model service plan doesn't require there to be anything extraordinary above, but right now it's parks and infrastructure to get this development out of the ground.
Yes, the development approvals themselves can direct various entities to have to finance or own improvements in the future, but at this point, that's what it's projected to do.
Okay.
All right, Deb, any questions? You good?
This is just related, but how easy was it for you as a development to work with the model service plan that we provided?
You can just stay up there.
All right,
So we got Sylvia
I need more
here.
steps, my
Right.
kid tells me. Actually, I think there are some model service plans, especially in the last, I've been doing this for a while now, in the last 5 years, some have become where it makes it so you can't develop. You come, I won't name towns because it feels like it's mean, but you go to certain jurisdictions and development just won't happen there right now because the service plans are so restrictive. But I think there's a balance because you need to have, everyone in my industry believes you need to have more disclosure because that is the biggest issue right now is people just don't know they're in a district. If they know it, then they can make their eyes wide open decision. And so I think that the disclosure you guys have is very close to one that when I'm in a jurisdiction that I propose and say, hey, how about this? Because it kind of breaks things down, especially the part where it says, here's the value of your home, it's $450,000. here's what the assessed value is, here's what a mill is, and then you add that all up, here's what it costs you. And then you have that last sheet where it says, if you're not in the district, it costs you this much, if you're in the district, it costs you this much. And you can plainly see that financial impact. There's only so much you can do, so I think that's a great way to do it. I think you guys have a very balanced service plan that it's not just come and open check and do what you want. I think it's important to have that operations cap. A number of jurisdictions don't have that, and that's where it gets really wonky, because then you're capped on your debt, but then your operations might be 50 mils. And there might be situations, I might be here a year from now with a different development saying, this development is gonna have a lot of operational responsibilities, a lot of maintenance, so maybe this mill levy needs to be higher. But for your standard typical district, I think it's a very fair, middle of the road service plan.
Thank you.
Go ahead, let's ask David first. Okay. And then David, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you very much. Brooke.
Okay, does anyone else before I ask another?
So, I guess you said that if they have a really restrictive, model service plan for those places that do not allow metro districts, the development just doesn't happen, period. Like,
It's
whatsoever.
very challenging.
So there were, in the past, I live in a community that does not have a metro district. So these costs were built in to the home prices instead of a metro district, which then you build it into the metro district and spread it out over, like you said, 30 years for this. But you're asking for $1,700, and this is from your numbers
Yeah.
of the,
Yes.
estimated for a $450,000 home. You're looking at approximately $3,400 in taxes as is, without a metro, and then $5,100 with the metro district. So you're looking at $1,700 per year for 30 years on every single home that's built. So if I buy it now and sell it, the seller for 30 years, that is there. These metro districts, I think we do have a model service plan so that we can have that control. I still don't think that we should, or that we should just say, okay, they followed our model service plan, we're good, and we can just stamp it and move on. We're looking at another 400 homes coming into the area. They bought the land, it's zoned residential, that's wonderful, but then we're gonna saddle our residents with a $1,700 extra property taxes. People already know, we pay a lot, and home prices are going up, therefore your property taxes go up. I have a hard time swallowing that pill of now the metro districts at first were saying that they were providing something extraordinary. The infrastructure is not extraordinary. I know there isn't any out there, but there wasn't any in a lot of these fields that now are homes. So it's just something I want to make sure we're considering, that are we really doing right by our citizens by saying, yeah, let them build, let them do a metro district. And I agree if there is disclosure, because that was lacking severely. But still, the more I've been learning and studying a lot on metro districts, because I really do want to understand more. And I have a hard time thinking that we're doing right by our citizens by saying, oh yeah, they need curbs and gutters and sewer out there, so they might as well pay $1,700 more a year on their taxes just so they have curbs and gutters, which I have and I paid for when I bought my home. But the people after me, they pay whatever the current home prices are and aren't saddled with this 30 years of extraordinary taxes. I just want to make sure we're thinking about that. Thank you. Anything else? Harlan?
Can I help with that a little bit?
Sure.
Because I clearly understand your position. But I look at other things that are metro
Harlan, do you have
districts.
questions for him?
I'm sorry.
Do you have any questions for him?
No, I'm trying to comment
Okay,
first.
all right.
I try to look at what other amenities I get from metro districts besides the infrastructure costs.
Absolutely.
So I look at some of these larger ones, for example, Thompson Ranch up by Centerra there. They have swimming pools, they have rec centers, they have all these things that their people can use that they're paying for. Those of us that don't live in a metro district, I pay homeowners association. And I get similar, that $1,700 equates to $150 a month, which is not an unusual HOA fee, and what do I get for my HOA fee? So I kind of look at it and balance it that way, that says, if I have a metro district, I get these amenities, and yes, it's costing me $1,700. If I don't have a metro district, I don't get these amenities, and I pay for homeowners association to give me some other things, like trash or something like that, but I don't get a pool, I don't get a rec center, I don't get these other things. So I try to look at not only the negative side of metro districts, but what positive things do I get from metro district two, and try to balance that out. And it says, you know, it does balance, there are some things that I get. Plus, I also believe that much as we like or dislike metro district, that's the way of the future. It's not going to be, you know, unless you stop development, because there are not communities that are gonna be able to put up that infrastructure cost on the front end. So if you stop development and box it in, then yeah, you can do that. But if you're not gonna stop development, I don't see a whole lot of ways. But I just want to say there are balances. I think there are some benefits that you get, not only the negative side.
Well, there also with the metro district, there's the HOA too. I mean, no, you're only gonna have a metro district?
There's no intent.
Same with Turian, remember I asked them if they were also gonna have an HOA, and they said no.
Metro district, that's why.
The
Yeah.
Metro
Yeah, we're not
District
intending to have an
is
HOA.
Not necessarily.
Well, but
Western
they-
Meadows has an HOA and a metro district, so it's not a given. So you will not have an HOA, they will not have any homeowners, it will just be a metro
That's
district.
the intent, yes.
So after 30 years, then, we agreed to this really far, but after 30 years, then does the metro district dissolve and it turns into an HOA, or?
No. An HOA is a private
Right.
covenant community. Metro district is a government. So there's certain things, like let's say we construct the amenity area we're talking about. That has to be, since it's private, or since it's publicly funded, it must be open to everyone. If we go without the district and it's funded by the developer and they have it go to an HOA, that can be just a HOA, no one else gets to use that.
Yeah.
So there are some major differences between the two. Your service plan states that once the debt is paid off, you would like to have the district go away. If there's some operation and maintenance obligations, the district would have to stay around unless or until some other entity wants to take it on. So let's say 30 years from now, we're operating the trails, and that's all we're doing. And you're gonna say, well, let's not have that there, the town will take on that. Then we have an agreement where we go to the court and say, we're gonna dissolve the operation and maintenance of these trails, are gonna go to the town, there's no debt, and then we dissolve and go away. But if you don't want us to dissolve, we would stay out there and have a small mill levy to pay for the operations and maintenance of that.
But it would have to be amended, right, like if.
We don't get to decide that.
Okay.
If we decide to dissolve.
So at the end of 30 years, what would happen if there were still trails or things to maintain? What would happen? I know that is kind of far away
I know,
now,
it's
but
hard to-
that is an interesting question.
Yeah, we would go to the court and ask, and then we'd have to notify you guys, and then you would have the opportunity to come and say, no, we don't wanna take it on, there's no one else to take on this obligation, so they must stay around. Or if you enter in support of dissolving the district and having another entity take on that obligation, then we would come up with an agreement as to how that would work, and then you turn over that obligation. We don't just get to go and decide on our own.
I just have one other comment. You have a choice not to buy there.
Oh, yeah,
And as
absolutely.
long as you have that choice and you're not forced to, then it's not I don't think it's our position to be able to say what they need to do in order to be able to put in what they need to develop, and if that includes the metro district, so be it.
I mean, I think Herman's right, $150 a month is, most HOAs are around that. That's a pretty similar HOA. I know some that are $300 a month for an HOA, and they don't get that much for their $300 a month, let me tell ya.
It's $1,200 a month down in Denver, some of the HOAs.
Like, so, yeah, I mean, if you think of it as kind of in lieu of an HOA, I think that does help, actually.
We
we vote? Then we're ready to go?
Yeah.
No? Go ahead, Deb. Okay, sorry, okay. Deb, and then Christian. Go ahead, Deb.
I don't really like the idea of a metric district either. How do these subdivisions come in before that didn't have one? And I don't have an HOA and I don't have a metric district.
And you have a house, right?
I have a mobile home,
Well,
but
but
that's,
still, you
yeah,
have, but
yeah, but
building a
I
living.
just don't understand why, everything's metro district now when it never used to be. I just don't.
Our representative. Christian.
Just a really quick note, and reminder about, this is a public hearing on an application, for, this, service plan. And, just a reminder to the board that really the board's job tonight is to take a look at whether this application meets the criteria in your code. And so, not to discourage the discussion about metro districts, but, that's really a larger issue, that would be better probably addressed, not at this particular public hearing. And so just a quick reminder that we do have criteria that have to apply to this specific application.
Thank you very much. Helen?
I just have a question, I think, for the applicant.
Oh, you have to get back up.
Could I?
Sorry.
You're wearing me out.
Ken, it steps it.
Yeah. So there is an existing metro district on the Douthat property. I remember we passed it a couple years ago. And it was the 45 and the 10, everything, it met our model service plan. So if you were unsuccessful in carving out the 100 acres from the 300, and it just went back to the metro districts that's there, if you develop that property, wouldn't that still be the same 55 mils on anybody who?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, thank you for making it. At this point, it won't change this property's, future. If we are unsuccessful, it'll stay within Douthat and have the same, live within the same boundaries.
So you'd have the property owner would still pay the same mill levy?
Right, it'd just be to a different district.
So just as a second question, when you carve it out of the Douthat, the remainder of the Douthat has the 55 mils the same way for the way it develops. Do they have to modify their IGA with us to pull out things that they aren't gonna build?
Well, not specifically what they're going to build. We agreed to do an amendment to the IGA to lower their debt authorization, because now they're not gonna have this 100 acres.
Okay.
So now they can't issue the 70 million, it's been reduced. So that, and they've agreed to that, but in terms of other things, there's nothing in the service plan that says you must build, road X, because that becomes part of the development process of what are you actually building and who's responsible for things. This just authorizes the district, if it has funds, to finance and construct these improvements. So
Okay.
there's no other amendment that's needed.
So the list of improvements is more illustrative
Yes.
when you do a metro district, and then when you carve out, cause this is unusual, that you're taking one out and you're putting in, but it's the same net effect. That's what I was trying to get at. So if you're paying 55 mils, anywhere on that property, you're still gonna pay it whether this gets approved.
And I wanna be clear, if we were to finance road X, Douthat cannot also finance road X. It can only be financed once, so
Right.
there's not gonna be any fear of
Right.
that.
And they're not double debt levies,
Exactly.
no levies, but regardless, you're still gonna
It's the same
pay
thing.
because it was passed originally. I'm curious.
All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, is there a motion for resolution number 23-R-22?
I move to approve 23-R-22.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, roll call please, Mary.
Trustee Harris.
Yes.
Trustee Schranz.
Yes.
Trustee Broadhead.
Yes,
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yes.
Trustee Babcock.
Yes.
Trustee Cartwright.
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you, the motion carries. The time now is 7:14. Now we'll close this public hearing. Thank you very much
Thank you, everyone.
for all of your time tonight.
And thank you for helping me get my steps.
You're welcome. Take care with your children too. All right, next we'll move on to our second public comment of the evening. I'll open up this second public comment period to those who are with us virtually. Would anyone
with us in Zoom would like to speak to the trustees tonight? Sorry, my holiday squares. All right, seeing that, we're gonna move on, okay, to our elected official reports tonight. Does any of the town trustees would like to bring up anything or ask questions or comments?
So, with the former postal development, what's it called now? Postal, thank you, postal. Frogger, is that what it is?
No, it's called something.
Access, okay, sorry. There's elevation 25, access, I am trying super hard to, it's kind of like Gopher Gulch.
I know.
Okay, so there has been, some, what's the word, their marketing, what was it, Access 25? See, I forgot already. Access 25 is marketing their rail park, and that is, there's a map of all the rail lines in the area, including through Mead and Longmont and Greeley and all this. And there's a lot of talk about this major rail park coming. So I just kind of wanted to throw it out there that the Home Depot distribution center is the only tenant so far that we know of that has come through the board for that park, right? Correct. Okay. And they have told us that their rail, what they are doing is coming from Greeley, coming to their facility, and then we'll head back out east. Because there's a lot of talk about, oh my gosh, all this major rail traffic. But really, they're marketing that it is a major rail park. And so my question is, there's also been rumors, I have heard that Smucker's plans on using, the whole reason they built where they built was so they could use the rail lines. Have you heard or know of anything, or Jason, of anything of major rail, not that, I mean, we all know, I mean, I moved here only 15 years ago, but the railroad and the railroad tracks was the only thing that was already really here, besides, you know, the few houses. So, but are there any plans that we know of honestly, major train traffic? Because I know there's a lot of rumors going around on social media platforms, and I just wanna see what we know and put that out there.
Well, I'm not aware of any, movement of that rail line past Home Depot.
Okay.
The next building where you see the pad going up, it's gonna be a spec building,
Yeah.
that won't even be accessible by rail, that'll be more of a traditional building. As far as reaching Smuckers, I'm not aware of that, and I'm also not aware of massive rehabilitation efforts to the rail line. If you go up where Mr. Sponicle was talking, for example, where the rail is out there, I mean, it's imperceptible that it even exists.
Right.
So if there were to be any expansion of the use of the railroad, they have a lot of work to do on the rails themselves and on crossings along the way.
And, I mean, we wouldn't be, granted, those rail lines are owned by the rail companies or whomever. I know, Access 25's owners, they said, own their chunk from that building to east to Greeley, which I thought was fascinating, because you don't hear of many private owners. But we would be brought in on the discussion. I mean, we can't prohibit them to use their own rail lines, like we can't prohibit a property owner to build within our code and zoning. But we would be brought in for, you know, like, oh yeah, all of a sudden we're gonna have major rail traffic going back and forth, especially because it crosses two of our most major roads downtown within hundreds of feet of each other, correct? Like, it's not just gonna surprise even the board or anyone that there's just a major rail park coming, even though they're kind of touting this area as you have rail access.
Well, as you pointed out, they could, at any point, they could decide to spend millions of dollars and increase the rails so that they could use it. But if you look at this rail line, the reason why it's so inviting for the Home Depot is the major part of this is to the northeast. That's where the switching yard is.
Yeah.
So the idea that you bring it in through Mead and take it to Longmont is counterintuitive for, this is kind of a not very well used spur, but they never give up their rights.
Right.
But, you know, at any given point that could change, but the whole purpose of the Home Depot is it's like a bumper car. The rail comes out, drops the stuff off, and the rail goes back.
Right.
It doesn't have a turnaround, there's no switching yard, so it doesn't really make any sense for it to go past there, just in terms of geographically where it would take things. But, you know,
Who knows?
their putting that Home Depot doesn't increase the likelihood of them heading west on the rail line. I can say that based on the fact that the building basically is gonna stop where that train would go for that, so.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. And then with that development with FedEx and, the Access 25 development, is it, they had said that they were building, or putting in, signals at the on, exit, and entrance ramps for I-25. We got the turn lanes that were paid for by FedEx, but the, Access 25 is paying for signals to happen there, which will be fantastic because of the frontage road. That's like a guessing game of who gets to go first, plus with some really big trucks. So I just wanted to make sure that was clarified. I had some people asking about, you know, much more major truck traffic, and
Yeah,
said that.
it's a requirement of CO, so
Okay.
they have to have them installed before they can occupy that building. And
They're planning on occupying at near the end of this year,
Yes.
correct? Okay.
yes, and if for some magical reason the other FedEx facility, which is working through its process and it hopes to get started soon, if it wanted to get online sooner, which is virtually impossible, but say it did, those signals would have to be installed for it to go in either.
Okay.
So it's an obligation right now of either one who comes first, but Home Depot is clearly the front runner in the race
Okay.
to get those signals in.
All right, thank you. I have one more thing. Since Helen said marijuana, I mean, brought up marijuana.
It's a big word.
It's a big word. I would like to propose that we start talking about, putting a sales tax on the ballot for the police, especially if marijuana is going on the ballot for a third time. I know that the residents just passed our sales tax for the roads, which I know we all truly appreciate that it passed. But there is no doubt that there is more happening and our police department needs funding. And we're gonna continue to fund them, but at the detriment of our general fund and other things. And I think we can't not ask again, so I wanted to put that out there to all the other trustees. Because what would be the time frame, Ms. Mary Strutt, for November?
Yeah, July is when you need to start giving it to Weld County to let them know that we're gonna do it, and ballot language is end of August.
And education and getting out there and talking about it with really good details and numbers, like we did for streets, would have to happen before we have to pull the plug. So I wanna throw it out there, see if anybody else on the board is on board, but I still truly believe, I hate to ask for a sales tax, knowing that, you know, I would be paying it as well, but I think our police department completely deserves to be fully funded and protected in the funds that they need.
Just to be clear on that though, are you tying the potential sales tax increase to the marijuana thing?
No,
Or two separate issues?
the marijuana word came up and it triggered the, oh yes, I would like to have us speak about doing a sales tax increase that would be only for police, so not just a general. Again, I think it was good that we did for streets only, and, you know, I think our constituents have definitely let us know that they wanna know exactly what the money's going for. So I think the police, we need to continue to look at how we're gonna continue funding them in the future. And a sales tax increase, unfortunately, is probably gonna be necessary, and if we don't ask, we can't get it.
Okay, thanks.
That's,
I have a really odd question, but when I was on the board previously, we own a lake up in the mountains that has to be visited every year. Has it been visited recently?
It hasn't, and it isn't
in talking to our current attorneys, it wasn't necessary that we visit it every year to maintain our rights to it. As you know, it's Red Deer Lake. And so it's one of those vexing things, it's like that irony song where you're just ready to reach it and then you die or whatever, you can't access the water. But it's in a beautiful location. We have the rights to it, but we could never use it for anything, you know, the town. I always think of that song when I think of that bit. But anyways, yeah, so we still do, yep.
Okay, my concern was that I guess it was the gates were, at that point, needed to be either repaired or replaced. What would be our liability if the gate failed?
Let me talk to our attorneys about it. I mean, we haven't visited the issue in a couple of years, but we'll talk about it. I don't think it would flood Mead. I mean, I don't think it's one of those, all the water's being held back. It was one of those, a kind of a maintenance thing that was sort of undetermined, but I'll look into it and get something back to you.
All right, thank you.
At one time, we leased the water to other places. They would pay for the water. I do have somebody that said if we need somebody to ride up to open the gate and close the gate, they'd be willing to go up there. I can't do it anywhere. I got a bad knee, but I went up there 3 times on horseback, and it's a 14-mile round trip.
That's awesome.
It's really neat.
Yeah.
So, but I know somebody that said they would go up there and open them, go back up there and close them when needed. And, yeah, and the only way to fix the gates was they had to use a helicopter to bring the supplies in.
That's right, that's what I heard.
Yeah, so.
Yes.
Why do we have this?
Yeah. But if you get a chance to go.
Can I ask why we have a lake?
We had a couple of residual water rights that we weren't successful in giving away back in 2002 when we decided to devolve the water utility from the town. We bequeathed our water rights of any value to the water district. This one they don't want. We've tried to pawn it off on them. It's not just for us that it's irretrievable. It is for anyone. So, I'm not trying to be glib and bring up the irony song, but I'll find some more information that's more modern. But we've discussed it, and the cost of even going up there to look at it is, you know, I mean, we don't have horses, but you can go up with, you know, a variety of contraptions. But it isn't really a value. It's more of a, you know, it's like memorabilia. When we hear of like Deb talks about it, and some different people have done it, but I'll get a full briefing on it. I'm kind of talking.
I'm sure if you open the gate and let the water out, it's gonna go somewhere. Then we can figure out who'll buy it.
Yeah. Well, and at one time we did try to sell it, but we didn't get any offers for it. But if somebody has horses and they wanna ride up there, and it doesn't cost us anything for them to go up and turn, you know, open the gates and close it, you know, cause they just paid the rental for the horse when I went up, the town did. I don't know how much it was, but, you know.
That's the question, why do I need to open
I was
the
gonna
gate?
say, I would do the hiking, I would do the hike, that'd be kind of cool.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
We have
She has answers.
According to the water commissioner, if you exercise the valve and release water, and there is a person on the other end to receive the water, that's how you maintain your water rights. We have not had a buyer for that water, so that, for like 10 years, and so they essentially go away. And so, there's no point in exercising the valve, because there is no person to receive it.
How much you want for the lake?
What did you give up?
It's true. That's so cool.
It is cool. It just popped into my head, cause I remember this is about the time of year that they were going out. No?
No. No, we used to go up in July, cause there was still snow up there. And then when we went to go close them again, it was usually in October.
Okay.
Yeah, I've come across a moose that was probably from here to that chair there. when we were sitting relaxing, I got a really great picture of the moose. So, but, yeah. So,
That's
you
cool.
leave at 8 or 8:30 in the morning, and you come back, you try to be back by 5. Take a sack lunch.
Very cool. Thank you.
David, do you have any questions or comments for this, portion of our agenda?
No, I do not, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other trustees? I'd like to make 2 comments. I'd like to talk about what Brooks was bringing up. Maybe we could talk about it in this meeting, and maybe there's something that we can talk to Lorelei, and we can get Slate to come in and give us some information on what happened to the last time that we had the election, and what we can do to improve any of the data that we have now. And if there's not enough, maybe we wait, and if there is enough, maybe we go forward, but I think it's all about the data. Since we've had so much data on the roads that we don't, I mean, we're so brand new, we're so green in the field, so I think that if we can talk about it, we've gotta do it soon, if we're planning to do it, you know.
We kind of, were we kind of thinking about maybe putting the home rules in on the ballot this year? And then maybe
Was
doing
that
the tax
maybe-
increase
It came on the ballot
next
this year, don't we have to do all the?
No, it has, the first election comes this year.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, oh,
So,
Yeah.
cause that's gonna cost us some money,
Right,
and it's
and
gonna be
that's
kind of a
gonna-
marketing campaign, and we've gotta help people understand why we
right,
wanna
and
do it, and.
we don't wanna attack
Two
two,
things at
especially
once,
home
no.
rule, because that's gonna be a big education
Yes.
issue. So thank you for reminding me.
So that,
I mean, I
I'm
knew that
just-
was there, but I
Yeah.
heard the word, and I was like, please. Sorry.
Yeah, so, we probably, do we need to start kind of getting our ducks in a row on home rule? Like, things are due by frickin' July, and.
Yeah, we're actually, Marcus is working on the, work session, and I believe we're planning either the.
And Christiana, right?
Oh, okay, well then you can speak to it.
Sorry.
I'm afraid I don't remember if we set a date, but we were talking about a work session on home rule for
March 28th.
March 28th,
Oh,
thank you.
your very next meeting.
Oh,
Okay.
look at
Well,
that.
Okay.
So we'll be going, giving you an overview, and we can, answer questions and everything, we can talk about the process that I do.
Okay.
Okay, my turn. Okay.
Your turn.
I know that we recognize our police force during National Night Out in August, but I'd like to recognize the force tonight and our Mead Police Department. Since this week is, it's on my phone, because the actual Senate today actually passed resolution 22-006 in recognition of the police week, which is March 11th through 16th, and tomorrow is the Peace Officers Memorial Day. So I just wanna say thank you very much for all you do, Chief, and all of your great officers that you have. So I just wanna say thank you on behalf of us up here in our community. Thank you for keeping us safe, and, I just wanted to say thank you, and, that's all I have for that. I thought it was very interesting that today that they actually passed a resolution down in Denver for a good cause for our police force, and that we recognize you guys for all you guys do for our community. So thank you very much, Chief, and thank you, Commander, for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. All right, if there's nothing, we'll go into an executive session, and if there's a motion, please, go ahead and state that motion.
I move to go into executive session pursuant to CRS section 24-6-4024B for legal advice on specific legal questions regarding the process of disconnection under state law.
Second.
Thank you. Mary, roll call please.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yes.
Trustee Harris.
Yes.
Trustee Broadhead.
Yes.
Trustee Cartwright.
Yes.
Trustee Trance.
Yes.
Trustee Babcock.
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. All right, the time now is, motion carries. The time now is 7:34, and we will turn off the recording and adjourn to executive session. We will restart the recording for the executive session, and this part of the meeting is now closed to the public.